this time I'm asking, but there's people in the back that aren't hearing that. How's everybody doing out there? Okay. All right, we are going to move forward with our program right now, and we have a guest speaker tonight who has been an active participant in the American Cancer Society Relay for Life actually since 2010. Is there anyone in here who has participated in Relay for Life? Okay, we got a good number. For those of you who don't know, that is a 24-hour walk in the fight against cancer. Why? Because cancer never sleeps. Right? So she has actually had some great tips for those of you who are going to be participating in future Relay for Life. So I chatted with her about some of that earlier. But she works at the California Cancer Center as a certified tumor registrar. Okay, there we go. But as you're about to find out though, cancer has affected her in just about every aspect of her life. She has a serious story to tell you and inspirational. So you're definitely wanting to listen up to this. Okay? Please welcome Mary Axworthy.
Tonight, and I hope you'll find my talk interesting, as I really do wear 3 different hats when it comes to the cancer experience. Hat number 1, caregiver. In 1978, my mother was diagnosed with head and neck cancer. I was just 17 years old, a senior in high school, when my life was changed forever. I became a caregiver. I didn't know I was a caregiver. I thought I was just a daughter, doing what any daughter would do, supporting the most amazing woman I'd ever known. The woman who had been my caregiver for 17 years. She taught me to be strong and independent, honest and humble, and kind and compassionate to others. For the following 14 years of my life, I was a caregiver. I drove my mom to appointments, I ran errands, I cleaned rooms and changed bandages. I sat in countless hospital waiting rooms and at her bedside during every readmission when the cancer kept coming back. After her long and disfiguring battle with head and neck cancer, we eventually lost Mom to a second primary, lung cancer. Mom had started smoking when she was just 13 years old. She had advanced disease at the time of her diagnosis, and it was her wish to spend her last days at home. With my father and I as primary caregivers, and the wonderful help with home hospice, Mom passed away peacefully at home, in the bedroom I grew up in. Unfortunately, that wasn't my only experience as a caregiver. I repeated the whole process again with both my grandmother and my dad. Nana was taken quickly by pancreatic cancer, and Dad lost his battle to metastatic colon cancer. By the time I was just 37 years old, I had lost the 3 most influential people of my life to this dreadful disease. After the loss of both my parents and my grandmother, I finally removed the caregiver hat, at least temporarily, and put on my second hat. CTR. In 2005, my husband and I relocated to Fresno. I spent my first 6 months here looking for the right job. I was working as a temporary employee, interviewing, and looking through the want ads daily, but just wasn't finding anything that really clicked. Until one day, there it was. The ad was looking for a trainee to become a CTR. They wanted someone who was familiar with medical terminology and anatomy, someone who was organized and detail-minded, and someone who could work independently with little supervision. The job qualifications fit me to a T. The only question was, what the heck was a CTR? Well, of course I Googled it and found CTR stands for Certified Tumor Registrar, otherwise known as a cancer registrar. Now, does anyone other than my coworkers and family here tonight know what cancer registrars do? 1! Well, cancer registrars are responsible for collecting all the data that feeds into the state and national cancer registries, and creating all the statistics you see from the American Cancer Society and the National Cancer Institute. CTRs are the behind-the-scenes people identifying and analyzing every case of cancer that comes through our medical facilities. That means we're the ones collecting demographic information, the type of cancer the patient has, that's referred to as the histology, the primary site of the cancer, that's the part of the body where the cancer initially starts, and the stage of disease, that's how far the cancer is spread at the time of diagnosis, and all the treatment that the patient receives. And we continue to follow up on that patient through their physicians every year for the rest of their life. When I learned what a CTR was, I knew that's what I was meant to be. This was how I could honor the memory of the family that was taken away from me, and how I could make a difference for future generations. Well, I got that training position, and I became a CTR. When I first started my training as CTR, I knew one thing about cancer. Everyone I loved died from it. The word cancer struck fear in my heart, but that changed. One of the first things I learned was that cancer is nothing more than normal cells that begin to change. They become abnormal and start to grow rapidly. Well, that doesn't sound so scary, but the problem is, left unchecked, these cancerous cells begin to destroy nearby tissue and can spread or metastasize to other parts of the body. So the key here is catch and treat the malignancy early before it has a chance to spread. And the easiest way to do that is to listen to your own body. It will tell you when something is out of balance. Don't ignore an unexplained pain, a skin ulcer, a new lump, or a change in how your body normally functions. When in question, ask your doctor. That's what they're there for. Another really important thing I learned while training to become a CTR is that not all cancers are created equal. Someone doesn't just have cancer. They have infiltrating ductal carcinoma of the breast, squamous cell carcinoma of the lung, sarcoma of the bone or soft tissue, or glioblastoma of the brain. There are hundreds of different histologies, and it's crucial to know the exact histology you have because the treatment and prognosis vary substantially. Some cancers grow very slowly and aren't even treated until the patient becomes symptomatic. Others can be very aggressive and require immediate attention. The advice I give to all cancer survivors is to always request a copy of any pathology reports from biopsies or surgeries, copies of any imaging done, including x-rays, ultrasounds, MRIs, CTs, or PET scans, and have your own complete record of your treatment, including dates of types of surgeries you've had done, chemotherapy, hormone or immunotherapy drugs given, and radiation treatment received. You have a right to know your diagnosis and treatment. Knowledge is a powerful thing, and it can greatly reduce the fear factor associated with a diagnosis of cancer. My training and newfound knowledge as a CTR made a world of difference when my husband was diagnosed with adenocarcinoma of the prostate in 2011. Remember, it's not just prostate cancer. It's adenocarcinoma of the prostate, which is a very slow-growing cancer. It was caught at an early stage before it had a chance to spread to any of the lymph nodes or surrounding tissues. So I knew, honey, you've got this. He had a radical prostatectomy to remove the prostate gland, and no further treatment was necessary. He's been cancer-free for 5 years now. Thankfully, my caregiver hat didn't have to stay on long that time around. Well, that leaves us with one final hat, doesn't it? The one I really thought that I would never have to wear. But in 2014, I became a survivor. My diagnosis took me completely by surprise. I had a simple head cold in December, and with it, up popped a lump in my neck. I assumed it was just a swollen lymph node associated with the cold virus, and I didn't think anything of it. But by February, when the cold was long gone, but the lump was getting bigger, my husband suggested I have it checked out. My doctor said the lymph node was larger than they normally see with a virus, and she ordered a fine needle aspiration of it, which came back suggestive of a lymphoma. I did not see that coming. I had no other symptoms other than a non-painful lump in my neck. Being a CTR, I knew what would come next, but only on paper. This was different. This was real. I had an excisional biopsy of the lymph node done to determine the specific type of lymphoma I had. The histology turned out to be a diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, an aggressive form of lymphoma, but one that typically responds very well to treatment. I was very fortunate. After completing my staging workup, I was found to have stage 1 lymphoma, which meant it was confined just to the lymph nodes on one side of my neck. This was a significant break for me, because it meant I would probably only need 3 rounds of chemotherapy instead of 6, and only one side of my neck would need radiation treatment. This brings me back again to not ignoring what your body is trying to tell you. Had I ignored the lump in my neck until it became painful, or I had difficulty swallowing, or I noticed additional lumps elsewhere in my body, before I consulted my primary care physician, I probably would have been diagnosed with stage 2 or 3 disease, and my treatment would have been longer and more difficult. I was in full swing fundraising mode as team captain for Team California Cancer Center. When I was diagnosed in February 2014. Some of you might recall our Relay for Life that team, the Relay for Life theme that year was Finish the Fight. I remember going into our director's office to tell him I had cancer and I was going to need some time off for treatment. He assumed I would step down as team captain and he would look for a replacement for me. My response was, "What part of Finish the Fight do you not understand?" Not only did I not step down as team captain, I spent all 24 hours at our campsite, fundraising and cheering on our team walkers just 5 days after my last chemotherapy treatment. Our team came in second place in fundraising that year out of 85 teams signed up. So I don't think anyone can accuse me of not finishing the fight. I had an excellent response to chemotherapy and completed my radiation treatment with manageable side effects. And at my 2-year mark, I remained cancer-free. I won't say the journey was easy, but cancer treatment is a little bit like childbirth. Over time, you forget how horrible it was. I think one of the most interesting things I learned throughout my cancer journey was what I believe to be the true definition of a caregiver. It's not someone who cares for you. It's someone who cares about you and shows it. They say cancer doesn't define you. It defines who your friends are. Well, I know who my friends are. My CTR family came to my aid the moment I was diagnosed. One accompanied me and my husband to my first oncology consult to take notes. Another drove me to have a bone marrow biopsy done and sat in the room with me while the pathologist stuck a 6-inch needle in my backside to get a sample from my hip bone. A third periodically brought me home-cooked meals while I was going through treatment. And then there was my best friend. She lives 260 miles away, so she couldn't physically be here for me every day. But she sent me care packages and cards and texts, so I always knew she was thinking of me. And last but not least, there was my husband, Mark. He drove me to my chemo appointments, told me I was beautiful with no hair, and always made me laugh. But I turned the tables on him on Easter morning, when I painted my head to look like an Easter egg and get into the car. The look on his face was priceless. me of my hair, but it couldn't rob me of my sense of humor. My caregivers mean the world to me, and what could have felt like the end of the road became nothing more than a bump in it because of them. So those are my 3 hats, and that's my story. I applaud those of you who have worn the caregiver's hat. I encourage all of you to consider wearing the CTR or other oncology professional's hat. And I am so proud of all of those who wear the survivor's hat. My sincere hope is that the rest of you never have to wear that hat. But if you do, please remember you are not alone, and you don't have to be afraid of cancer. You just have to be ready to fight it. Thank you.
Wow. What an amazing story. Mary, thank you so much for sharing that. And your husband proudly recording your speech there. I love that Easter egg part.